Hello everyone, welcome to SurveyCTO Webinar Series. Today we are going to talk about making your forms smarter with server datasets. My name is Marta, I'm part of the customer success team at Ability, and I will be presenting the webinar today. This is our agenda for today. To get started, I will go over the definition of a server dataset. What is it and how it can be used. And then I will show you the most important features you need to learn to work with a server dataset. How to create one, how to update one, and how to preload data from a dataset. Finally, I will share you some important considerations to run a smooth server dataset workflow, and I will finish the webinar with a live example. So what is a dataset? In a few words, a server dataset is tabular data that is saved in your server, more specifically in the Design tab along with your forms. It can be either static, which means that doesn't change across time, or dynamic, those that are permanently changing with incoming submissions when you are publishing form data into the dataset. So therefore, a dataset can serve two purposes: to be a source of data, so you are able to pull the existing data to your form, and or to be a storage of data, so you are able to publish data from one or more forms. From here, there are plenty of workflows you can set up. For example, you can simply use a server dataset as a source of data. As there is no publishing, this server dataset will be static. It won't change across time. You can think of it as a CSV file saved in your server. Once the static server dataset is in your server, it can be attached and be a source of data for one or more forms. There is no limit. This is a common workflow for panel surveys. For instance, imagine that you have collected a baseline data and you are now in the midline or endline, and you want to push this data into your form so you can compare respondents' new answers to their old answers. A more advanced example is using a server dataset for both purposes. One or more forms can publish their data into a dataset, which will then be a source of data to one or more forms. The server dataset is both a storage and a source of data. And some examples for this usage are back checks, for instance, or a case management workflow where you need to be permanently updating your cases. Now that we overviewed the concept of a server dataset and what does it serve for, I want to show you how to use it in your data collection processes. And for that, I will show you how to create a server dataset, how to publish form data into the dataset, or even how to preload data from the dataset. Creating a server dataset is a very simple task in SurveyCTO. In the Design tab of your server console, under your forms and datasets, you just need to click on the plus sign and then choose to add a server dataset. But there are two types of datasets, a regular one and a cases dataset. They are both the same thing. They have the same structure, the same dynamics, but the latter allows you to use our case management feature. So you would only choose new dataset for cases if you want to create cases and fill out your forms via the Manage Cases menu. For any of these, the steps are the same. You should simply give the dataset a title and an ID. And optionally, you can upload a CSV file that contains the tabular data you want to store. Otherwise, you'll create an empty dataset. Alternatively, you can create a server dataset by uploading its definition file. This is an XML file that contains all important information about a dataset: the title, the ID, whether it's for cases or not, and all the attachment and publishing settings. Once you upload this file, everything is set up in your server. This is usually very useful when you are trying to replicate a workflow that already exists in a different server, for instance. This definition file can be downloaded in the Design tab. At some point of your data collection, you may want to update your data sets. And you can do this in two different ways. Either you have a static data set where you uploaded a CSV file and you just need to upload a new CSV file to update it, or you have a dynamic data set where you are publishing form data. And this means that the dataset is being permanently updated by incoming submissions. Of course, you can have a dynamic server dataset and still update it manually. I will show you now how to conduct both approaches. For a simple manual update, you just need to click on Upload. And then when uploading the CSV file, you have three options. You can append, you can merge, or you can replace existing dataset. What does this mean? If you have a new CSV file, append will add all rows of the new dataset to the existing dataset. The merge option, based on a unique identifier set by you, will either update an existing row if the ID already exists, or create a new row if the ID doesn't exist. Although the most common case is that this leads you to a mixed match of information, depending on the data you have, the results can vary greatly. So on one extreme point, if there are no matching IDs, merging can be the same thing as appending. On the other side, if all IDs match with new data and you only have new data, then merge can be the same thing as replace. And replace is completely deleting all existing data and replace it with the data of the new CSV file. Updating a server's dataset dynamically by publishing form data requires a bit more work, but our user interface makes the job easy. You want to link one or more forms to the dataset, but in a way that you make sure that the publishing is well configured and answering to all the important questions. Which form fields do you want to publish or update? Although you don't need to publish all form fields. You feel free to choose which ones are important to you. It can be only even one. Which submissions do you want to publish? Although you don't need to allow for publishing all incoming submissions. Let's imagine that you are assessing the eligibility of respondents. You can create a field that evaluates 1 when the respondent is eligible and 0 otherwise. And then you can tell SurveyCTO that only those that are equal to 1 should be published. Finally, how to make sure that submissions with the same ID update one another instead of creating duplicates. You can, and for some use cases, we advise you to specify the unique identifier of your study. In practice, how do you configure all of this? It may seem a lot, but it's quite easy and fast to set this up. You click in Publish Into in Design tab, and you will be prompted to select the forms you want to publish data from. In this image, I already selected the form named Test Form. From there, you will configure the field mapping in a very intuitive user interface with 2 columns. The first column, you specify the form fields that you want to publish, and in the second column, you specify the dataset columns to which the data will be published. The good news is that If you want to publish all fields, you don't need to do this one by one. You can simply click on Add All, and that's it. Additionally, as I mentioned before, there are other configurations that you can set up, but they are optional. You can specify the unique identifier of your study if you want to update rows based on the ID instead of creating duplicates, or you can specify a field that evaluates to 1 whenever you want the submissions to be published. An example is to publish only submissions related to ineligible respondents. And note that you can create a calculate field in your form design just for that. And this is all you need to know about publishing your form data into a server dataset. The third and last feature you need to learn to make the most out of server datasets is preloading data. This is when you use the dataset as a source of data. And the only thing you need to do on the dataset side is making sure that your server dataset is attached to your form. So you just need to click Attach and then select all relevant forms. The form design will do the rest by using the pull data function. If you want to learn more about preloading data, specifically on the form design side, please check our 2 webinars on that subject. You can find them in the video library of our websites. And finally, just before going to the live example, I want to clarify how the workflow of a server dataset works in SurveyCTO. Note that these considerations are for the SurveyCTO Collect app. These are not issues in the web forms because you have internet connection when using web forms. Everything starts when you are filling out the form, when you are filling out a submission, and assuming that there is no internet connection, there is a lag between finalizing the submission and sending it to the server. And during this time, when the submission is simply saved on the device, the dataset is not updated. As soon as the submission is sent to the server, the dataset gets updated, but only on the server, not in the app. So if the same or a different enumerator starts a new blank form and pulls out values from the server dataset, it will still not consider this submission specifically. Only when you install a form update, then the server dataset is updated in the app. So keep sending all submissions to the server and updating all latest form versions into SurveyCTO Collect is extremely important to ensure a smooth workflow. And so you need to make sure that your enumerators are keeping everything updated. There are a few settings in SurveyCTO Collect that will help you ensuring this. The first couple of settings, this is in general settings, and the first couple of settings are auto send with Wi-Fi or network. And this will send finalized submissions automatically once the device is connected. The second couple of settings important are auto downloads with Wi-Fi or network. This will warn users about any form update available once they are connected to the internet. Of course, you can uncheck the Wi-Fi or network depending on your use case and what kind of internet connection your enumerators are using. And finally, the display send receive status. This will add a button to the main menu that will trigger synchronization and will check for updates available. You can see this in these images of the SurveyCTO Collect. So in the menu bar, you'll have 2 more buttons, and you can click on the button that's a refresh button that will automatically send all submissions finalized in the device and will check for updates. If there is an update available, it will add a new menu to your app, install form updates, where you can install and download all latest versions of the forms. We already went over all you need to know to set up your dataset workflow. So I will move to the live example. You are linked to this sample form in the webinar registration, and I also share the link in the chat box of the Zoom. If you click on the link, you will see the folder, the Google folder with all relevant files. Okay, so please start by reading the README file so you can follow the instructions and set this up in your server console. This live example is a registration form for farmers specifically. So we have one server dataset and one form. The form is both publishing form data to the dataset and is also pulling data. In this form, you are able to do one of three actions. You can register a farmer, you can deregister a farmer, and you can change or update information on the dataset. I'll move to the form definition. I will show you only the most important form fields. I don't want to spend too much time here. But in the form definition, you can see that the structure is very clear. So you start by asking what do you want to do, which action you want to do. So you can either register, change information, or deregister. And you can see that there are groups for each action. You can register the farmer. You can change the information about a farmer, and you can deregister the farmer. The only additional group that I skipped, and you may have noticed, is the find the farmer, which is relevant when you want to either update or deregister a farmer. You first need to find which farmer you want to do one of those actions. So how do we register or update? What we want to do is to publish either the new or updated farmers information. As you can see, both groups have the same set of fields. You have the name, the age, the gender, the county, and the town. And you have the same ones in changes: name, age, gender, county, and town. The only difference, the way we can distinguish both, is the prefix. So what we want to say and what we want to store and publish, the update name if it wasn't null, if it was filled out. Otherwise, we want to publish and store the new name. And this is what the coalesce function will do for us. As you can see, these last sets of calculate fields are the ones that are being published to the data set. If you go to your server console and you are wondering about which form fields are publishing and updating the server data set, you can click here and you can see the field mapping. As you can see, these are the form fields that are publishing, which are the same as this. Now that we already know the dynamics of publishing new dates or updated names, how can we deregister a farmer? We are not able to delete or remove rows from a data set, but what we can do is filter out rows from a data set. The last calculate field that we are publishing is named includes and evaluates one if action was not 3, which means the action 3 means they register an existing farmer. Otherwise, it will evaluate 0. So from this point forward, all farmers deregistered will have a value 0 in the field includes. And this is what we are going to apply when finding a farmer to select in the form. We are displaying farmers using our search expression. So we have the server data sets and we are loading multiple choices from the server data sets. And what we are saying is that we want to display all farmers from the server data sets that have the value 1 in the field includes, which means that all the registered farmers, the ones that have a value 0, will be filtered out. So this is how we are deregistering farmers. I will show you, I will submit a submission from this form so we can see the dynamics and what happens very quickly. So we can see here that this data set already has one farmer. His name is Tom. He has 33 years old. And he's from Mayo, Westport. But I know that he is not from Westport. So I want to update this specific information about Tom. What I will do is that I will fill out a form submission. I will choose the action to update records of a farmer. And I want to find the farmer by searching by country and town. Right, currently it only shows Mayo because I only have one farmer from Mayo in my data sets. The same thing with the town. And now it matches and I can see Tom here. So this is the farmer that I want to update information from. These are all the details and we can confirm that we have seen those in the server console. Tom, 33 years old, male, from Mayo, Westport. I confirm. And I don't want to update the name, the age, gender, or county, but I do want to update the town. So I know that he is not from Westport, he is from Castlebar. Everything remains unless the town. So I confirm that this is the change that I want to do. I will submit the data. And let's see if the server data set was updated. And here you go. Now the town is not Westport, but is Castlebar as we changed it. The include value is 1, so that's why it's being displayed, otherwise it wouldn't be. And this was our webinar about making your form smarter with server datasets. I hope you enjoyed.